Okay, time to awaken again, guys. Oh my gosh, my mind, of course, is exploding once more. It just starts connecting so much, so much. Okay, so we know that our timeline has been hijacked. Somehow, some way, they have subverted the time, and it's not necessarily through time travel. It's through geoengineering of the geomancy in the ground on Terra. And if we go back to this map, now this is Monty's map. I'm going to show you guys. This is the largest early world map. It is Monty's 10-foot planisphere. Again, it does not say planet. It's a sphere, though, because it's a circle. But of course, Google puts it over a globe right here. Google said, oh, yeah, we can overlap that. And of course, I'm sure they conveniently changed the North Pole, or what they claim to be the North Pole is actually the middle pole, the middle of the Earth. I'm finding out so much more evidence to tie into this whole narrative, and it goes into the different degrees, the different beings. Oh, my mind is in a mind melt. I actually had to just lay down for a moment because, I was like, oh my gosh, this is. But as I lay down, more information comes pouring into my mind because my mind does not turn off in regards to the truth. And so it's just constantly working, and it spirits me forwards with energy because I can't stop. I have to get this down. This is what my purpose is. Divinely, I came here to help people see this. Now, I want to talk about how I came about this. Well, just downloading information. I can now put myself in you call it hypnotic trance. It's basically meditation. Everything's meditation, but you sit in silence and you just ponder over different subjects. That's meditation. And I wanted to illuminate my mind on the truth of my past experience, or what I had seen as a past experience through the eyes of another being, because we can do this. In Hermetics, we can learn how to become other people. We can become the trees and we become the birds. Our mind is magical if we just stop with the belief systems that they've indoctrinated us with. So, remote viewing, if you would, another timeline where I had an experience, or at least I felt this experience as this woman who was a seeress in Egypt. I went more into that life. Since I was a seeress, I could divine into the future. It's the aspect that I brought into this life. And in my first hypnosis session that I had, I saw myself as a warrior who was defending the people. And because all of the people died, I felt guilty. And so I committed suicide by throwing myself off a cliff onto the rocks and into the water, where I drowned. This is why I apparently was having nightmares as a child in regards to this. I also used to have nightmares as a child of giants chasing me. The truth is within inside ourselves because we're connected to everything. This is something that I cannot express enough. We are connected to everything. So we have the memories of everything inside of us. We have to trust and know that it is the truth, though. And once you see the truth inside yourself, no one else can tell you anything else otherwise. This is why people have been scoffed throughout history. They've been shunned from society because these other people out here in the world, they don't have the same experiences as you do. So they can't relate to it. And all they know is what they've been told. So this is the falsehood that has to be spoken. It has to be realized in each person. I can't do it for people. No one else can. But the people out here in the world, they have to be the ones to discover their own divinity. And this is why We spin around on this great wheel. This is a great wheel. But this planisphere is not rotating. It's the heavenly luminaries over our heads that are constantly rotating around us. And there's this thing called the analemma of the sun. The sun makes a figure 8 over our heads, changing in different directions. Now, this is not accurate, but I have noticed it where the sun is not rising in exactly the same position as it does in the summertime. It actually goes south by so many different degrees. It's actually very noticeable, which would mean that if you have a flat earth map such as this, the seasons can therefore change by where this sun is oscillating. The sun is oscillating like this. As it goes around, it's oscillating up and down and up and down, and it's going around. So it made sense to me that if the sky is spinning and we are still, that the seasons are determined by where this sun oscillates. It's hard to describe this, but I could comprehend it when I saw Santos Bonacci. When Santos was describing this, he was describing the world map. And when I saw this and the sine wave that was shown, and I'll show you that in a minute, it was showing that the sun, does this analemma thing, is what came to my mind's eye, is that it's dipping down and rising up. And it's moving and gyrating around on this plane. Somehow, the sun has its set trajectory that does not change that much. And because it changes its polarities, coming up and going down, coming up, going down, it's making like this figure 8 thing that's in our world. It can then heat and cool, causing the seasons in different time zones. Anyway, that's not what I was going to get into. I was going to get into this image that we're looking at right here. It has 4 quadrants. It has the north, south, east, west quadrants because this is divided into 3 sections each, and it coincides with this. There are 3 ages here. They represent time on the great wheel of time. This is the wheel of time as well. What I propose, based on a flat earth model. Now, don't get crazy, people out there who are like into the globe earth of NASA's lies. When you research NASA, you're going to know exactly that they're telling lies. When you research CGI, when you research all this stuff and how they cannot show you the same imagery over and over and over of the same thing. Globe earth models, they show different CGI images. It's never the same. So if you have eyes to see, you will know this. You will be able to say, oh my gosh, why is the image always different? Why is it always different? Because they're making it up. That's why. Because no 2 artists are the same. So no 2 artists are going to paint the same thing. But only those who truly think for themselves will get and grasp this concept of what I'm trying to get at. This is a wheel of time as compared to the Astro-theology charts. Now, in order to hijack time, you have to change the ley lines. The ley lines run up and down like this, concentric rings. I'm going to dare to venture to say that this is Aries, right here. Gold, the golden age. Aries, Taurus, Gemini, and then all the way out, because they have Tropic of Cancer and Tropic of Capricorn. But if you wanted to change the timelines, You're going to change all of the geomancy that's involved with time, which would be the stars. The stars represent time because of the way they change, and all things change in time. And if you've done a lot of occult knowledge and you've attained all this wisdom, and then you fell from the golden age down because of your darkness and your greed and your corrupted mind, where you summoned these entities to come into your body, and the entities then tricked you and said, hey, listen, you can do this and you can do this, and then summon this demon and that demon and have this power and that power, and then you create hell on earth by your demise of what you had been doing during the age of Atlantis and the golden age during Taurus and Aries. Yeah, guess what? They created hell on earth because they unleashed hell through summoning. Those first little things where they were greedy and they started summoning the spirits to attain information where artifacts lie or where information lies that they could obtain for their greed and lust for power. Their minds became corrupted. And now guess what? We're in a world, a swirling world, whirling of negative energies that have taken over physical bodies, because that's what spirits can do. Spirits can take over your body. That's what Agul does. And that's what drugs and sorcery do. And Mother Circe, she does a number on people. She turns people into animals. Remember all this stuff. Oh my gosh, I've been doing so much digging. My mind is now on it. And, you know, my questions inwardly to myself, my subconscious are, you know, how do you hijack timelines? And this is what comes out, that these lines, these circular lines, represent the heavenly stars that spiral around Polaris. Polaris is a fixed star, guys. Fixed. It does not move. It's always over one central point. All the other stars circle around Polaris. And all of those clusters of stars represent different constellations or different energies. These different energies have been named different things throughout time. In Egypt, they called them different things, but they're not the same as what we have today. We label them as certain animals and certain beasts. Because, you know, as we go through time, we change into beastly nature, back into human nature, depending on if we're trying to get to the middle or the heart of gold. So these lines represent Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Tropic of Cancer. Cancer is going to be like right here, probably, because it's above the equatorial line, or what they call the equator. It's not really the equator. Let's go over here and see. Leo is in the middle. Makes sense, right? Leo in the middle, Lion in the middle. Virgo, Libra, Scorpio, Sagittarius, Capricorn. So Cancer and Capricorn are in opposition on the spectrum. So when you're looking at this chart, you can actually compare it to the map below. Now, in conjunction with this chart, you know, we have 12 houses, we have 12 months. But did they remove something because of the way they've taken a month away and divided it into all the other months? Aries is supposed to be the spring. This is the beginning right here, Aries. And we begin with the feet. Actually, they want to start us in Aquarius, which would be right here. Just doesn't make any sense. So getting back to our foundations of knowledge is the most important thing that we can do. And we can do it through natural means. If we just study nature again and learn the foundations of what they were actually teaching in Druidic practice and Celtic practice, Nordic traditions, all of these things of getting back to earth science. That's the foundations of truth, because the mother nature, she cannot lie. She doesn't lie to us. The stars do not lie to us. The stars are always fixed. It's the men, the people that are lying to us. And that's why I'm so passionate about going backwards in time instead of forwards, because as we go around forwards in time, each age that comes about is going to be a new story to tell. That's why we had the Bible in Pisces. The Bible, they left out all the other apostles, you know. I mean, there was like 4 that they focused on, and they took out all the rest. So where's the rest of them? You know, where's the other 8 apostles? These are the apostles right here. They're all of the different symbols in the constellations, but there's more constellations than these. When you go into other cultures around the world, they talk about different constellations. They're not always these. So that means that a star map would tell us more about what they are saying. These stars never change. And the way this comes about, so we know the sun rises in the east, sets in the west. And the stars, if you look at this chart, they are circling counterclockwise. If you're looking up at the stars go counterclockwise because they go around Polaris, which is in the middle. The moon circles this way, but the moon resonates. It goes up and down this path more frequently. That moon is shooting across the sky in weird spiraling motions. Like it's on a different part of the whirling of this conical shape of energy that's all around us. This is all whirling, apparently. I mean, we just got to come up with this model, because I don't believe NASA. I don't know about y'all, but I don't believe NASA at all. And I don't believe these Freemasonic, Vatican, Jesuit, you know, all of these entities who have been dominating the world. They took the power from Atlantis. They summoned the black spirits because they wanted power. Those spirits then gave them their power, but then the spirits needed their penance too. And now we've got dark spirits running the world, basically. Dark entities, whatever they are, you know, reptilian, who knows what they are. These energies are dominating us, and we have to take the power back. And this is the only way, is by going over this and just looking at everything with a different lens and saying, hey, look, something else is going on. Let's figure out how geomancy works. And I believe if we go by the flat earth model and Polaris, which is fixed in the sky, then you can just see, even if this is, you consider this the globe, you're looking down from the central point at the top, and then you're seeing that it's spiraling. Everything's spiraling. We can all agree on that, okay? Because we're not going to try to upset somebody's apple cart just because they're sold into a belief system. I'm trying to come up with, you know, what's practical here. Let's look at this in a practical perspective so that we can all gain the insight on what's really going on and how this stuff works, because they've moved all of the state capitals. They've moved the capital of the United States of America. After they took America and made it a corporation, they subsequently moved all the state capitals and the capitals for America and all this stuff, which means that they changed the ley lines. They just move them slightly because you start resonating with a different frequency, because of the stars are energy. They are all energy frequencies. And whichever constellation you're trying to bring the energy in on, you then make a grid pattern. You know, you start with your base point, and then you connect to other points around the map. So what we need to do is take a map like this that shows just a circle and point out. We need to put little pinpoints to mark where all the capitals are and what it's actually doing, because it's resonating with particular stars over our head. And those little longitude and latitude lines, they matter. They matter. It's energy. Everything's energy. These are going to be just like acupuncture points. If you consider Earth a body, a living body, these are all acupuncture points. And the light from heaven connects to those acupuncture points. Guys, we got to think about this. We just got to think, like, what is going on? What are we looking at? Why is this all happening? What can we do? Gaining the knowledge of this is power, of how all of this works, the star power plus earth plane. That's basically the whole notion of what I'm working on here. We got to stop with the division. We got to stop calling ourselves black, white, Christian. All these things, they're terms to divide people. We are a people divided. We are people. We need to unite and drop all of these identities that we've associated our minds with, because that's keeping us divided on all levels. Listen, I did some digging because my mind wanted me to go dig. I looked up the etymology of Jew and Hebrew because Jordan Maxwell had expressed how Hebrew was a derogatory term. What I found was that he was correct. So these labels that we associate ourselves with, religious and otherwise, it's a means of division and dividing people and keeping people divided. When people see themselves as separate from someone else through these words and terms, it keeps them from uniting as one because they see themselves as something else. And people get offended when someone mislabels them or states something about what they associate themselves with. This is the problem. It incites more division in the mind. It's mind control. All of the ways that they have thrown at us, all these terms, all these levels of consciousness are keeping us back from greatness. And that's the whole point, because it keeps them in power, because we cannot see the forest because all of these trees are in the way. When we decide to stop judging others and to merely judge ourselves instead and how we handle ourselves in every situation, we can create a better world together. But until that time, we're going to remain divided on all fronts. And this is our hard lesson. I am not perfect, but I strive to be better today than I was yesterday by doing what I do. You know, I just think about things and I'm like, I need to be more mindful of my own actions, because as we change ourselves, we therefore change the world. Imagine if everyone took the time to change themselves and to work on themselves instead of seeing all of the problems outside of themselves. That would be miraculous if we could pull that feat overnight. But we've got a long way to go. And while we're here, and if you've made it through this video to this point, you are the change in the world. Each one of us are. But we have to start seeing it this way instead of seeing outwardly all of the problems in the world and asking, how are we going to change things? It's us. We change ourselves first, and the world then changes with us. This is the answer. So in Africa, there's pictures from Egypt, you know, of these people. They're depicted on walls and drawings and stuff. They are the brown people. They were the kings and queens of Atlantis and Egypt. This is why they don't want these people to know their true power. This is why they keep them suppressed and in poverty, because they don't want them to know who they truly are. These people are very, very powerful. They are the kings and queens and adepts of Egypt, and they're scattered across the four winds. Because the whirling wants everybody divided because it keeps them in power. They come from the outer lands. You've heard of Outlander, right? Outlander. This is outer lands, Outland. these things are doing a number on us. And maybe outland is Atland, Atlantis. Maybe that's what they did, is they were summoning these outlanders into their world, and the outlanders came inland and took over. Oh man, there's so much to know about all this. Well, we got a lot of catching up to do. These things, they come from these outer lands. And there's a witch called Angerboda that lives in the east, whom Loki mates with, and therefore creates 3 monsters that infuriated Odin when he found out that Loki had mated with this troll witch that lived in the east, and that they created Jormungandr, which was the Midgard serpent. Odin threw that serpent into the ocean, and it became so large that it was able to encircle all of the land masses, and that they also created Fenrir, this enormous wolf that they tried to tame, but they found out that they couldn't tame that wolf, so they took it out to an island, and the dwarves fashioned a rope or a chain to bind it to a rock, and it was left out there just to dwell on an island somewhere in the world. And then they also created Hel, and she was the goddess of Hel. She became the goddess of Hel because Odin wasn't going to have her up in his domain, because she was uncontrollable as well. She loved all of the evils of the world. She wanted to incite wars and do all kinds of things. So he cast all 3 of those out of his domain. The Wicked Witch of the East, not the West, the East. That's where we get the term angry from. All these entities out here are the antithesis of light, which is in the middle, the heart chakra. Everything's tied to this map. As within, so without. As above, so below. Everything is tied together. These are the realms of darkness. These are the realms, the lower realms, obviously, of Yggdrasil. And maybe they're not just under the earth. Maybe they're on top of the earth, because people have been summoning them for thousands of years to try to attain some sort of gain of power from them in order to dominate this. This is why eventually Ragnarok will happen, because I believe these outer things that are from inner earth have now gained the ability to be above the earth, some of them, through DNA splicing and all of this. Thousands and thousands of years of fighting with the light in the middle, that eventually this outer ring of darkness is going to eventually squelch everything. They have just about done a number on most of these different land masses here through subverting the consciousness, through all the warring, relegioning the mind, through religion wars. And those religions, because man keeps delving into darkness, summoning these dark spirits to gain power, control, wisdom, all knowledge and all this stuff, it's corrupting everything. And eventually darkness will prevail completely through Ragnarok. We've got big things to think about. But as long as we can obtain gold inside of us and outside of us, we can go up through the heavenly light and ascend to greater planes, because we don't want to participate in their darkness and their dark ways. But that's okay. Our inner light is eternal, and we will all go up back to the one. Yeah, well, there's a lot to think about with this. I don't know anybody else is, coming up with this idea of how to pinpoint all the magic from the stars. I don't know anybody. I know there's somebody out there, because I'm coming up with it. That means that somebody else is also talking about this. But I believe because the stars are just, on these particular points on this map going around in circle, 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 that is where the energy comes from, and they can change the time based on this because they just altered our calendars. They've altered our astro-theology chart. Our chart is not right. It doesn't line up with the Vedic astrology. Vedic says we're going into Capricorn now. And it's probably more correct because, they're just trying to throw us off. And that's what this whole notion of spinning, whirling. Now, one thing I noticed, because the sun is rising in the east and setting in the west, it's going clockwise if you look down like this. But the stars, if you're on the ground down here and you look up, the stars are going counterclockwise, because to look at them properly, you have to be above the stars looking down. And that would be clockwise. Let's say you are made of the light and you are in heaven and you're looking down. That means you're looking at everything going clockwise. Interesting information. But if we see the sun going from east to west, that means it's going counterclockwise as well. Something to think about. There's a lot to think about. We have oscillating energies, oscillating heavily planes of energy. So one of the reasons why I also wanted to make the video about us, in the middle of the map, is there's this idea of monatomic gold. I came across this subject, of course, while listening to different videos in Hollywood, but what I found out about monatomic gold is that it can actually prolong your life. And so there was this whole notion where people were creating this thing called ORCS. And ORCS is a white powder substance that is in a solution, but as in all things, they're going about everything completely wrong. I don't think you can actually do it with the gold that we have today. The gold that we have today has been made the way it is to put impurities in a solution. The gold that we have is actually restructured with other metals so that it becomes more stiff so it can be used in jewelry. When in reality, 100% pure gold is so fine and delicate, you can easily bend it and manipulate it with your hands. And the same is with silver. When they find silver in the ground, it's not something that will hold its structure very well for jewelry. But they wanted to go ahead and cast it in jewelry, so they've added other metalloids to help the metal stabilize in its structure. And with that, you get the impurities, and the impurities are what is going to stop it from doing 100% of what it's supposed to do. Now, another thing that I came across was the notion of the sun and the moon on the eyes. You're supposed to put a silver coin and a gold coin on the eyes of the dead instead of 2 gold coins, like they said. That's all that Roman myth stuff. I believe it's also Greco, in Greek, they would give Chiron, the river master. He was the one who pushed the boat across the river Styx to take the dead souls over to the underworld. But nobody wants to go to the underworld. You don't want to go to the underworld. Don't give him 2 gold coins. Give him a gold and silver coin. And so this whole notion of silver and gold, it's the sun and the moon. And then the sun being the yang principle and the moon being the yin principle, which is earth. Sun is fire, and air, which is spirit. So, this whole concept and notion of combining these 2 metals to perfect the body. I believe that in alchemy, these 2 metals together is actually a very, very powerful, potent potion for the body if you colloidal them in a solution of distilled water. I do not have 24 karat gold, but I believe that that would be a lot better than what some of these videos out here are representing that you do with the monatomic gold and how to create it. Because what they do, they show all these different chemicals. You know, they show like pouring acid into the solution, and then all these other chemicals, and degrading the gold to the fact where the acid eats it and makes it into a white powder. How do you know you're even getting gold at that point? Because all of these things that they're putting in there, some of them are like powders and things. So to me, that does not say that is completely right. I believe it's a falsehood. When in alchemy of distilling the silver, all you have to do to make colloidal silver is to hook it up to some electrodes and to a 9-volt battery, and you have 2 silver rods that are dangling in a distilled water solution, and it'll start distilling the materials of silver into the water. This is how it's made, is just through electrolysis, the metal goes into the water. So I don't know why you couldn't just do that with gold too. But like I said, you're going to get these particulates that you don't want in the solution as well. So it's not pure. But you have to ask yourself, and I was wondering this, I pondered over this question many years ago about why is gold and silver not as highly valued as gold, but why is gold so important? What is it about gold that makes it so highly sought after? You can't eat it. I mean, not the way in terms of eating it as food, you know, to sustain yourself. I believe that they do something else to it. And in the alchemical phases, I think it's something to do with longevity. I do. Like, something inside me says it was actually in the blood of giants, and especially the ones that are like angelic beings. They are from the ones who are, you know, from the light. And that's why it's gold of the sun. That's why it's represented alchemically as the sun. There's gold in salt water of the sea. In the Yggdrasil and the Norse mythology of the prose Edda of Yggdrasil, they say that one of the beings, one of the giants, the Jotun, when he died, his body became the earth. Yeah, so it states in the prose Edda, Har explains that a troll witch lives in the east of Midgard in a place called Ironwood, and she bears giants in the shape of wolves. She calls herself Volva. Get that? Volva. It's Volva. But guess what? That's kind of like the car, Volvo. You see how they change one word? I'm telling you, there's all the answers are out here in the world. Etymology is huge. But vulva, you know, female, also in reference to, but she was Angerboda. Now, where have you heard that word before? Anger, manger, Araman, Angramanu. These entities change their names throughout time, through the stories that are told. And I believe that, you know, all of the tales are spinning throughout all of these different stories. Now, Angerboda, or I say it's Araman or Arawoman, Angramanu, because it's, when you go and you look this stuff up, it's like, oh my gosh, this sounds like this. And then you read about the things and you're like, oh my gosh. And even that Araman has been depicted by Rudolf Steiner as being like an elf type of head with this evil scowl looking mad look on its face. What if it's not a man?
You know, what if it's a woman? Anyway, so this Angerboda mated with Loki, and they made 3 monsters together. Jormungandr was the snake, the Midgard serpent that circles the oceans, the oceans of Midgard, around in a circle. It's the Ouroboros. It bites its tail and it circles the earth. That's one serpent, okay? And then Fenrir is the giant black wolf that is depicted in the movie Thor. You know, it shows up at Asgard and all this stuff. And they also created Hel, or Hela, I guess. Or it just says they created 3 monsters, Jormungandr, Fenrir, and Hel. Angerboda is the mother of wolves. Ymir created the world from his body, and he was a Jotun. Aegir was the name of the sea. The Aegean Sea, Aegean, this Aegir or Aegir, it was the name of the sea. And Logi, Logi, was the name of fire. Kari, Kari, the name of the wind. Jotun, Jotun, was the name of the earth. So Jotun was probably spelled with an I, because the J didn't really exist at a certain point in time, you know, and it was only in the more recent past that we got a J from out of nowhere, from the lying thieves that stole the world. Jord is the earth as well, Jord, and it's also a Jotun. So basically, Jotun is earth. The heat of Muspelheimer met with the ice of Niflheim. This is the fire and ice. These are the 2 realms of fire and ice. The ice began to melt and created Ymir, the first Jotun. He was also known as Argelmir, the wet bellowing one, and Brimir, wet or the sea. Also Thor, thorn, Boltthorn, the evil thorn, who is the father or grandfather of Odin's mother, Besla. The leader of the giants was Isbadadin. Loki, Loki, means air or sky, and is not to be confused with Logi, Logi, fire. Dwarves are said to be compared to trolls, since they turn to stone in the sun, and are said to live in the northern regions of Jotunheim, or Earth. So, what we have at the 4 corners is the antithesis of what's in the middle. The middle of Earth is gold, and the outer perimeter around the ice wall is where these evildoers are. And there are all kinds, there are all manner of monsters, what we would consider monsters. You've got trolls or dwarves, and then you've got these giants, witches. I mean, all this stuff is going on. So, and apparently they can walk around the perimeter of their land and get to each other's areas, according to that map. The world that is all around us, they can get there very easily from island to island. And we are being completely misled on many, many levels into thinking that they're going to some place that is just in the Antarctic Sea somewhere. But they say that the land down there is huge too. And why is it ice? Everything's melting so that we will discover things. And I believe we're going to discover many things as we get out of the winter of consciousness. But why else would they call it the Arctic Circle? A circle would imply that it's a round thing. I don't know. You know, this is a whole lot of stuff. I'm believing this more than the narrative that they're spinning. I'll tell you that much, because we know for a fact that they've been lying to us. So now it's up to us to go discover the truth. And the 4 corners, you know, that's these different land masses. Let's count the land masses, because that's something that I haven't done. So there's a big one to the north, And that, of course, is not where the North Pole is up here, yes, but this is the central pole. And then you have all these other masses. Why are they depicted like this? Why are some of them white and some of them green? It doesn't make any sense, right? Unless they're maybe those part of the ice realm. But look, down here, they show it as red. Below what they call South America is fiery red. See, I think we're talking about hell here. We're talking about the fire realm, Muspelheim. And then the other realms would be the land of the Jotunheimer, because they're supposed to be earth giants somewhere. And maybe that's what these lands are that are green. And then these two frosty frozen places, maybe these are Niflheim. Now, there's supposed to be 9 realms in Yggdrasil. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 4 at the top. And then 1, 2, 3, 3 at the bottom, because this one continues to the west. Okay, that's interesting. So that would be 7. Are these the 7 planetary bodies that they are worshiping currently? Because I believe that they've changed the timeline because they've changed the energetic sync of our world. And the geomancy has been acting in their favor. So if we just gain a little bit of knowledge, a little bit of insight, we can start doing our own little geomancy things. I know that you can also do medicine wheels, something that I keep forgetting to do. You can do this with just stones around your yard. You can put them in the cardinal directions and, you know, get this fresh energy of the earth going again. And that's something that's practically free. You know, just get a bunch of stones, you make a medicine wheel. The medicine wheel looks just like this image, basically. It's a circle of stones with lines of stones through the center and outsides, north, south, east, west. Looks just like the alchemical symbol of Terra, basically.
I know that's a lot of information to chew on, you know, in many different directions. The main goal was to basically make the connection between the Earth and the stars as being the modus operandi of how they've changed the timelines. And the ley lines, what we consider ley lines, are actually star lines. And I'm already finding the evidence that this is true just by looking at a couple of different things on the map and then spiraling around to find other areas. So I'm going to be working on this in the future. So I guess I'll just see you guys on the next one because I'm going to be working very hard on this one. I'll see you guys soon.